Hello, everyone. So we'll get started. And yeah, just in case there are some people quite new to this drop-in, just to say the regular format is I'll give some sort of Dharma nugget for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll sit for about 40 minutes, and I'll lead some way into that practice. And then there's some time at the end for you to say something about your practice if you'd like to. So for this today, I wanted to talk about awareness practice as life practice. And I was thinking of the 7-point mind training that many of you will be familiar with, different sets of mind trainings from the Tibetan tradition. Slogans, they have some very pithy slogans. And one of them is take everything onto the path. I think that may well be a general principle within the mind training, but take everything onto the path. Use all experiences to benefit practice and use whatever arises. And hopefully that sounds somewhat familiar to you from awareness practice, because that's also very much meant to be taken into daily life and to use the experiences that we have in daily life in the same way that we use them in formal practice. And they really influence each other. The times of formal sitting hopefully will enable you to have a bit more continuity of awareness and recognize what's happening from this perspective in your daily life. And vice versa, the more aware that you are in your daily life through all your different activities, then the more effect it will have on your formal sitting practice. And the key thing is continuity of mindfulness through times of sitting and not sitting. And it may be that you're not even particularly aware that you're more aware until something happens. And that's what I want to explore a bit this morning. So we can ask ourselves, is formal practice impacting on my life? That's a good question to ask, and probably just from your time of practice, and for some of you it's a very long time, you'll be able to say yes, yeah, I'm clear that my practice affects my life in a very positive way. But just a little bit more specifically to this practice. So can you say what happens when reactivity arises? And it's natural that it does, of course. It's the stuff that we work with. So it's not a problem, it's not wrong, but how we relate to whatever form of reactivity that arises is significant. Can you recognize the presence of awareness in those moments? And right view. So right view helps us take the reactive mind less personally. Helps us take it in a way that causes the mind less suffering. And reactivity in the mind often arises suddenly, like the irritation, the flash of irritation, or the sort of reaching out of greed towards something. So awareness needs to be there to catch it, if you like. And we might just recognize that awareness is there because of the way that we experience that reactivity in the mind in the moment. So recently I got caught off guard somewhat by a feeling arising. It's quite strong, and it was in conversation. So somebody else there, and yeah, it felt uncomfortable, but I also had to keep responding to the conversation. Well, I chose to keep responding to the conversation, but So that was happening externally, but into the mind turned internally very quickly to recognize what was happening. And that was the awareness recognizing, attending inside as well as outside. And the awareness was able to recognize a discomfort, it's quite strong discomfort. Um, then it recognized insecurity, and then, oh, the mind is jealous. This is jealousy, and this is familiar. This is what's happening. And that awareness, that knowing, within a couple of seconds, I think the reactivity went from being up here to it sort of shrunk. It just shrunk. That, I suppose the second arrow is another way of talking about this. The second arrow just went dropped to a very small amount. And there was the uncomfortable feeling was left. So that was what was there. And the uncomfortable, the unpleasant feeling was quite manageable, but now there was also interest, real interest in what was happening, and keeping tuning in with the other feelings that had been there. But there was no sort of justification. There was no aversion to what was happening. It was okay, and it was interesting. In fact, interesting to the point where I was a little bit disappointed when it went away because I couldn't keep watching. I couldn't keep recognizing what was happening here. So that's the way that I'm quite familiar with being able to have awareness, recognize reactivity, and to lessen the suffering around the reactive mind. It's not always like that. Sometimes as my friend Mioshin likes to say, sometimes the reactivity is like a mountain and the awareness is like a mouse. And so there isn't enough awareness there to recognize what's happening. But sometimes another way of that I work with awareness, which is quite sort of conscious really, is if I know there's something coming up that's going to be a bit difficult, or that I know that I really need to be aware for it not to become quite difficult, is to prepare in advance. And that might sound a bit strange, but what I mean is recognizing all the thoughts and feelings that come up in relation to this future event. Maybe it's a difficult meeting at work, or sorting out a communication with a friend, or maybe it's something different. And just yesterday, I had one of these things, which is I had to cycle up to hospital and have a MRI on my head to do with the migraines that I have. And I've had a few before, and I find I experience mild claustrophobia in there, and so I noticed the mind getting anxious beforehand. I just noticed these thoughts, and particularly images of some panic at being in there. I've never panicked when I've been in an MRI, but that's the fear, if you like, or the anxiety, is that I'll panic and I won't be able to get out. I'll be trying to get out of this machine and I won't be able to. But each time I just notice these thoughts arise, I notice the images arise and the feelings associated with them, and just recognize that this is what's happening, and it's happening not there but here. It's happening with me sitting in my kitchen having a cup of tea or something like that, and there'd be these thoughts. But the anxiety didn't grow when the awareness was there. There'd be a little rise, and then, okay, this is what's happening. There's some anxiety. There are these images in the mind. There are thoughts in the mind. And actually, what I've found before and what I found yesterday in the actual machine is that it's the mind is calm and ready for the experience. A little bit of anxiety, but that was okay. So we can do this as well. We can sort of let the mind investigate what's happening about an experience that it knows it's going to find unpleasant, and in a way have that done by the time the actual event happens. It also means we've just got more awareness around the types of thoughts and feelings, sensations that are more likely to be arising in that experience. So we're using our experiences in this way, not by avoiding thoughts or feelings or sort of giving into them, but by just being with them, be investigating what's actually happening as it happens. Okay, so I'll leave that there. If you have any questions, maybe we can get to those after the meditation. But if you'd like to set yourselves up.